We consider ourselves the radical middle in that when you get to species like grizzly bears and wolves, some people want them wiped out, some people just don't ever want them hunted.
People who have never seen a grizzly bear, it's important to them knowing that grizzly bears are going to continue to thrive on this landscape.
There are too many bears in some habitats of Wyoming, so we're starting to see movement into human-dominated landscape that typically aren't good for bears, they aren't good for humans.
Yes, wolves kill, bears kill, but you know what's happened is humankind has moved in on their territory. And because of that movement, all of a sudden, the four-leggeds are the bad guys.
There's some not so good baggage that comes with some of these big animals. I have witnessed both wolves and grizzly bears where, in my opinion, they're supposed to be, is in the wild, not alongside a highway, not through the windshield of a vehicle.
Everybody acknowledges there's no easy answers to ranching with carnivores, but a lot of us believe that it's kind of our responsibility and our privilege to try to find ways to live on the landscape, doing productive agriculture while also coexisting with native species.
We pray that all the grizzlies from Yellowstone and everywhere else will come to our reservation during the seasons, so no grizzly has to give up its life. That's what we pray for.
How long have you been studying the grizzly bear?
Well, we produce an annual report every year, and our data do go back to 1975. So this is one of the longest ongoing studies on any large vertebrate in the world, really.
How long does it take them to breed and reproduce?
Grizzly bears have a relatively slow reproductive rate. So typically they don't produce their first litter of cubs until they're about 5 or 6 years old. Then they produce a litter, and if that litter survives, then they'll stay with the mom for about 2.5 years, and then a new reproductive cycle starts. So it's about 3 years before the entire reproductive cycle is over. What we've seen since the early 2000s is that more cubs dying earlier. So cub survival has declined and yearling survival has declined, and we think that that is related to other bears killing them. It's not uncommon for a male grizzly bear, for example, to kill younger cubs that are vulnerable. We have now bears moving into places that haven't seen grizzly bears for decades. That's causing a lot of conflicts because they're running into places where people are simply not used to seeing grizzly bears, and they're maybe not quite prepared yet in terms of storing garbage and making human foods inaccessible to bears.
Well, are there people on the ground that are educating these folks on how to live together?
Yeah, basically from the beginning, from the 80s on, agencies involved have been very active in what we call making people bear aware and developing bear aware communities.
It's always challenging when grizzly bears show up in a new place for the first time, and we're trying to be proactive. It's not just farmers and ranchers either. In the Big Sky country, we had tremendous garbage problems years ago, and bears are being drawn to garbage cans.
Grizzly bears are very adaptable to food resources. They're omnivores, they eat a lot of different foods.
They are drawn to grains, they're drawn to beehives, they're drawn to chicken coops. And so we're learning in many of these areas to take proactive measures to keep these bears out of trouble. And what that looks like is carcass management. So when you lose cattle on your land, you get that carcass off the land very quickly because that draws grizzly bears. You put electric fencing around chicken coops, beehives, and calving yards, and then you have range riders out there. And the sterling example of this is the Blackfoot Valley in western Montana, where they've reduced conflicts with grizzly bears by 93%.
We've had livestock killed here by wolves and grizzly bears. Nothing catastrophic right on the property, but in our adjoining rangelands, we've had 5 cattle killed in one instance in one attack by wolves, and had a few others killed by grizzly bears.
When those problems happen, it's a lose-lose-lose. First off, a rancher loses livestock. The bear is either killed or translocated, and our state and federal agencies have to expend tremendous resources, time and money, to address the issue. So it's in all of our interest to get out ahead of that and prevent the problems in the first place.